right, everyone. Welcome to the episode 2 of UDYAM 2.0, where we will be talking about Excel. This is something which we might have used so far in our college life, but this is something we are going to use on a daily basis going forward in your career. So, because of that fact, we need to understand how to use Excel in a fast manner, in a quick manner. There are certain shortcuts, certain tricks that we need to understand, we need to know in order to use Excel more efficiently. There may be a lot of different kind of data that we may be using. There are certain formulas that we need to understand before we even start using Excel, because a simple manual typing all the time may not help. We need to know the shortcuts because manual effort needs to be automated. Okay, so let me just give a very short introduction about myself as well. Before I do that, let me tell you that for today we will only learn some basics about handling duplicate values, autofills, how we do double click tricks, and how to freeze panes according, there is a use of freezing the panes and why we do that. Then we have filtering and sorting. Then we'll talk about a little bit of advanced topic like VLOOKUP and pivot tables. Why do we use them, right? So once we do that, once we go through these four specific segments, I think we'll be able to use our Excel much efficiently and faster. Excel is a very vast subject. It does contain a lot of topics and things to take care of. They cannot be taught in a day or maybe in a month, but the basic things that I'm going to cover today will help you, to use it in a more efficient manner. Okay. So a very short introduction about myself. You know me, you have been seeing me around as part of SPECANCIENS. But apart from that, I do have a role at TCS wherein I work as a senior program manager. And Excel has been a very crucial part of my life. Like every single day, I'm using Excel to a major extent. Like I'm utilizing it with, I mean, for every report that I do, for every presentation that I'm working on, I do utilize Excel. And Excel is kind of before even database tables or Tableau or Snowflake, whatever tools are Informatica, whatever tools are available out there. Before all that data visualization tool, Excel was the one and only data visualization tool. And Excel still holds that position in the market where it doesn't matter if you don't have other visualization tools with you, but Excel is something which is a must that every single company uses. Now, Excel can have other forms like Google has Google Sheets. We may also have see some Evernote sheets as well. We have sheets in iOS as well. But nonetheless, even though these are different products, but they serve the same purpose and almost they use the same shortcuts. So if we learn Excel, the main reason of learning it is most of the companies utilize Excel. They do have use Microsoft products, specifically Outlook, and also Excel comes in a package, so they do utilize Excel a lot. So let's jump into the topic and start understanding how and what Excel is. So today's topic, I'm not going to read out any slides. Yeah, we may see some slides on the screen, but I will not be utilizing these slides as a support. It is just to tell you that okay, this is the topic that we are talking about, but we'll do it practically. I have some sample data. Actually, I have a lot of data, but I have sample data which I would like to work on, right? So the first topic that we would talk about is handling duplicates. Now, let me switch my screen to a different window. So yeah, this is nothing but a list of all the folks who are currently part of SPECANCIENS, right? So I can see that there are females and males. They all belong to the same college. Then they have different email IDs. Then they have some different phone numbers, example numbers. Then this is something I have saved as a password. Let me remove it. That's not needed. So what I want to do with this data is I would like to arrange this data in a alphabetical order, or maybe I want to segregate male and female, right? So before I do that, there can, I will, what I'll do is I'll desperately copy some cells and just paste it. So let's say I've created a lot of data here. Now I know that I've done it desperately, but I still would like to know what's happening around with this data. Does it have duplicate values? Does it have correct values or not? So if I look at, now I'm having 73 different values in this table. Right? I'm not counting the first one, that is nothing but the heading. Right? It's the heading column. So if you look at the data, now I'm seeing 73 different values. Now I may have duplicate values in this. I'm not sure about it. This is a huge amount of data. Okay. So what I'll do is I will simply, what I'll do, I'll select that column. Right. So I have to click on the A column, and then I'll go into, first of all, let me identify which are the duplicate values. Okay. So I'll go highlight cells and then duplicate values. Right? So all the red ones are nothing but duplicate values, if you see. Right? So these red ones are already repeated. This is one way of removing duplicates. But this only works if you have less amount of data. Here we have around 73 different rows, and it's easy for me to identify all these reds are coming up here itself. So what I can do is I can select. Right now I selected a column by clicking on A, the column name. Right now I selected the rows by clicking on the row number, and then I can drag this. If I drag this, it will continuously, you know, it will continuously select all those rows. Now there is another way. I can select the first one. I can scroll down here. I will click and hold shift key, any shift, right shift or left shift, that doesn't matter. I'll hold the shift key and I'll click on the very last row number, and it will highlight from the starting point to the end point. Now how to delete them? If I click on delete button, it will still leave all these boxes empty here, right? What I'll do, I'll right click and then I can click on delete. Now this I can do even as a shortcut. Right click and see all in the entire list. You will see certain letters are underlined. Like for copy it is C, insert there is I, for delete there is a D, for clear contents N, right? Format cells F, R, H, U. So all this highlight means once you right click, if I say D, it will delete all those columns, all those rows, right? If I say H, which is for hide, it will hide it. Now how do I know that it has hidden those rows? From 30, directly from row number 30, I'm seeing 75. That means something is hiding here. So I'll right click and I'll say U. I'll click on U. It has unhid. It has now given me all my rows back. So this is one way of deleting the duplicate values. That's how you handle them. Now if I have data where there are, let's say, thousands of rows which I cannot scroll down completely and go with it, right? So let me open one Excel and see if I can grab some data for you. Okay. Okay. I hope this data is visible, right? So if I go and see, this is 16,421 different values available. This is a huge amount of data. Okay. So this is a huge amount of data. How will I know that this specific data, how will I know that this specific data has duplicate values? Simple. I click here, conditional formatting, duplicate values. Everything will come to red because seems like there are so many duplicate values. But if I start deleting these red ones, I may delete the original value as well, because conditional formatting highlights both the values which are available in the list. It will highlight the value which is the original value as well as the copy of it, the second copy of it. So this method will not work for me, right? Now what I'll do, I'll simply select that row, click on data, and remove duplicates. Now, since I have selected data which is also in connection to other columns, it will ask me to expand my uh, view or expand my scope of deleting the values, right? So it will also keep the corresponding other column values for me. Now this is a complex data. Let me simply copy this list and paste it in a new sheet. Now if I click here and apply, simply click on remove duplicates, it will say which column you are deleting it from, removing it from column A. It will simply, I'll say okay. It says 15,605 duplicate values found and removed, 816 unique values removed, right? So that is how I have identified what were the unique values available. Okay. So far, any doubts? Anyone can raise hands, speak up.
No, Akshay.
Okay, thank you, Dhananjay. So, yeah, Saideep.
Could you say how to unhide the hided things and all?
Okay, sure. Let's say I selected these, I clicked, I said hide, H. Now there is something hidden between 4th and 18th row, right? I have to first select the upper row and the lower row. Okay, Saideep. Then I'll do a right click. After right click, either I can click on unhide or I can click on U, because U is underlined here. That's a shortcut for unhide. So if I click on unhide, I'll have my rows back. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anybody else with any questions? Okay. All right. So now I have, what I've done is I have removed the duplicates. Right. So this is where the duplicate removal helps. We may find a lot of data where we want to remove duplicates. Now, what are we having here? We have 816 distinct values, which also includes the column name. So basically that means I have 815 distinct values, 815. Now the same thing I want to do here, but with each row item, with each exam name, there are corresponding data which is available. So what I'll do is I'll select, I'll say remove duplicates. It will tell me expand the selection. That means I'm not removing just these exam names, I'm also removing the corresponding data because I may not need it. So if I don't really need the corresponding data for the duplicate values, which is mostly the case, I'll say remove duplicates. I'll simply say okay, no duplicate values found. Why? Why did that happen? Why did it tell me that there are no duplicate values found, even though I can see that there are duplicate values? Why did this happen? It happened because all the values corresponding to each duplicate value here, all these values, right? These values, which are, this is the same name, but all these values are unique. I expanded my view, expanded my selection. That is when it tried to check whether the same corresponding duplicate values are available. So for a value in column B, are there same values in C, D, E, F, G till M, right? So since all the values here are unique, it did not delete anything. Now let's try again. Remove duplicates, but continue with the current selection. That means only B column please consider and leave the rest of it. This is something which I'll not use generally because corresponding values will not collate or correlate with it again. So let's say I say remove duplicates. What does it say? 816. So the same thing that we did in the sheet 4 with the values, the same thing happened here. But what it's going to do, it is going to leave all your other corresponding values just as it is. And this is where the confusion may happen. So it will not delete all the duplicates if your corresponding values are unique, right? Now in this case, if I still want to remove these duplicates, I don't want to have it, what I can simply do is I'll have to select these corresponding values probably manually and have to remove it. But that will not be the case, because if all your values are non-unique, you would not like to remove that. Okay, so that was all about handling duplicates, right? So I will move on to the next slide, which talks about generating series. Now this is something I think we might have done a lot so far, but let's look at it how we can generate a series and go on with it. So I'll take the same data. Generally series, we tend to work with numbers, but that can also work with alphabets, but still there should be few numbers involved. Okay, so let's say this is the data and I'm trying to create a sample mobile number. So I just have to mention the first number or the first value in the series, and if I take my cursor to this corner, see this is my cursor, right? It's a larger plus, right? Now I have to take this cursor here to the corner. It will become a more bold or a smaller plus and double click on it. Now this will create a duplicate value because only the first number of the series is defined. It is not defining the second number. If it defines the second number, it talks about the relationship between the first digit and the next one, and then you will have to highlight both, and then you have to double click, and that's when it will understand, okay, this is what happened, right? So it simply copied the cells when I did this double click. Now if I have to just have it as a series, I can go at the options below, simply click on it and click on fill series. It will fill the series. But that this kind of filling the series, going to the options and clicking, will only come in case you have only filled your first value. Let's say if I fill my second value, right? There are two values, so there is a relationship which is defined. Let's not take a direct series, let's take a indirect series. So indirect as in it's not the next number, it's having some gap. So what I have to do is I'll have to select both the numbers, because it will define, this selection will define a relationship between the initial and the next number. Double click. So the gap between first and the second number was 4 digits plus 4. Now you will see 25 plus 4, 29, plus 4, 33, plus 4, 37. That's how it has understood the logic and it has numbered. This is how we fill series. I would have also done something like, dragging it till the end. That also would fill the series. Or I can simply say copy cells. It will copy cell in the same order the way I have selected both 21, 25, 21, 25 in the same pair. So that is how we handle a series, a basic series with basic number. Now I can fill series with alphabets as well, but that is something, if I have, let's say I say A, and if I double click, it will fill all A's, and it will fill format only, fill without formatting, flash fill. Flash fill means something random. When I say flash fill, it means it will not see the logic behind anything. It will simply fill something randomly, maybe uppercase, lowercase, it doesn't matter. A flash fill only, flash fill is something we will use when we are dealing with creating sample data or garbage data or just masked data. That is when it happens. Let's see what happens if I'm entering two distinct values and trying to fill it. It will directly take A B A B A B because alphabets, right? It is alphabet, so that's why it will do this. So if I do this, drag it, it will still fill AB. So there is no number involved. That's why it will fill the identical series. Okay. Now you can define gaps between two numbers. You can define a direct next number, but that is how you will fill the series. And a lot of time when we are dealing with data, we want to fill the data with some values, but you cannot go to each and every row and fill it. We generally use this method. right? So I would take questions now on series. Akshita, yeah,
Yeah, what about days, months, or weeks, something like that?
sure. That also, see, wherever a number is involved, the series is going to work. Let's say if I say first Jan, right? Simply first Jan. If I double click on it, it will directly start with the series because there is a number involved along with the month. So this is the date. If I click on this is the value. It's taking the current year. That's how it works. You just have to double click the corner. No, if you don't want to fill the series, just want to fill the same thing, you can select it from the options page. No, I want to fill days, or I just want to fill weekdays, or only months. That also can happen. Right? If you want to fill months, you want to fill it with months, first Feb, first Jan, first March, like that. And the moment you cross Jan again, it will become 2026 automatically. It depends on your format. So if I go with the format, right, let me do it like this. If I go with this format, this is how it changes. And I can always rely on this data. Let's say if I want to fill with months, this is how it works: months, days, and etc. Does that answer your question, Akshita?
Yes, Akshay, thank you.
This works the same for time as well. So if I say 1 p.m., right, and if I want to fill it, it will fill the this value, the identical value first, and then I can try to Siri it, or maybe there is a format which is supposed to be defined. So I have to define a format. So if I say time, and then if I try to fill it, it will let me know what to do. Now the problem with certain series is, if you are defining alphabets along with a certain alphabet along with number, they will not work out that well. Let's say if I say right now it is considering this, it's taking all this value as a basic value. It's not taking it in a specific format. Let's say if I want to talk about a specific format, if I go to more number formats and say time, let's say something of this sort, expanding the time, then it will understand it. Maybe let's do that. So if I say 1:30, it says AM. If I double click it, it will generate a series. So for cells having values with both alphabets and numbers, you have to define a certain a value, or else it will simply fill what it sees. Okay. So that was all about series and numbers. So apart from Akshita, does anyone else have any doubts? Any questions? Yes, Dhananjay.
Yeah, Akshay, what are the special characters like dollar symbols, any other things?
Special characters does not define, or they are not part of any series. Let's say numbers, right? For numbers, we know that there is supposed to be a next number. For alphabets, we know there is a certain alphabet because it is a series of 26 alphabets. But special characters, let's say if I say at the rate, right? So at the rate, special characters generally work as formulas for us. But let's say if I take dollar as a character, right, it will only fill dollar because special characters does not have a theory of series. They are not part of any predefined series like numbers or alphabets, so it will always fill like this. If I go to the option and want to fill with something else, even if I say flash fill, it will still fill that number. It will not fill anything because numbers is a series. If I want to fill a flash fill kind of thing, random numbers, it will fill. Random alphabets, it will fill. But since this is not part of any series, any such group as such, it will not do anything with the special characters. I hope that answers your question, Dhananjay.
Yes, Akshay, thank you.
Yeah, it will only repeat itself but not be in any series. Now let's see if I associate some number with this. I said $1. Okay, fill series. Now it will fill $2, $3. So there is a number involved. So number gives it a logic. Give it a logic, of series. So now it identifies itself as a series because numbers are involved. Okay, if I write AM here, simply like just like time, right? I say AM, and if I simply say double click on it. There is nothing to do with AM. If I say flash fill, it will say AM, PM, PM, AM. It will take it as AM or PM because it's part of that small series, either AM or PM. So with flash fill, it is giving me PM as well in the values, but there is nothing to do with series because there is no number involved. Okay, that's all about the series. Let's move on to the next part of it. So next part is double click functionality. Now double click is something we have just now seen. Specifically, the double click helped us to fill the series. Now double click also has other uses. Okay, so let me switch back to our data. Now let's say I am just simply doing like this. There is a lot of names here which are available. There are a lot of names which are available. There are a lot of email addresses which are available, but I'm not seeing the complete names. I'm not able to see the complete emails. Now, what will I do? Do you think I will hold this and drag it until where I want? No, right? I want it to be justified. Let's say I'm lucky enough to have a very large screen here where I can, drag it till the end of the screen. But what if I'm not having that privilege? What if I'm working with this kind of data? Right? What if I'm working with this kind of data? I cannot drag it till this end, right? All my data will be moved towards the left, and then I have to drag myself, drag the entire screen towards the left to see that data all the time. What will I do in that case? This is the column where I want to see the data. I'll just go to the outer boundary of that column where the next column starts, and I'll simply double click. If I double click, the size will adjust itself according to the largest or the longest character value in that list. So there will be a certain value in this list which will have a very large length, and because of which this got defined like that. So if you see this name is the largest in the list, kind of. So because of this, it has shifted itself. So wherever you will see a largest name, let's say if I double click this, so let's say Surya's name right now, the full name is the largest character series, right? The largest string in this series. So that's why it has taken the width of this largest name so that everything fits. The same way for emails. Mostly the emails are of same length. I think my email has one character extra probably. So that's why it has taken that length. So that is one functionality of double click, that is auto fit of column width. Now the same can happen for the rows as well. So if I have a row with a lot of data, let's say, okay, let's go here. Let me come here and let's say I copy this and I paste it here. So I don't have to see now. Okay, I don't have to see that all the time. These rows are defined with the same width or a proper width. But let's say that I know that there is some more data available here. When I click on it, I'm seeing 2, but when I take it away, I'm only seeing 1. Only seeing 1 in this column. That means there is some value there. Similarly, I'll just select this row. I'll go to the outer row, the outer boundary of that row, and double click on it, and that is when it will take the width. Okay, now there are 2 columns. There is column A and column D, which has values which I am not able to see properly. Now this mobile number, this is having more extra width than what it should have. Now this data is not organized well with respect to the column widths. How can I do that? I have to select the all the columns entirely and go to the last boundary of the last column and give it a double click. So all the columns will adjust itself with the longest length, with the longest length of the values there, and it will adjust itself, right? So this is how rows can be done. Similarly, I can have some other values available. Let's say, so this is auto adjusting right now. But if I don't do that, let's say if I do this, there are 16,000 rows here. If I go up, I simply do this, and just try to readjust all the rows which are available in this large data. Just have to do a double click. You will see this is adjusted. At the same time, when I go up, I'll see this is adjusted. This is how it happens. So if you have a lot of data which you would like to adjust with respect to rows or columns, this is how it works. You have to select all the rows, go to the outermost, and that means the bottommost row boundary, and double click on that. For columns, you have to go to the rightmost boundary of that column and adjust. So in this case as well, if I click, see, there is a lot of data which was hidden. See, it has readjusted itself. Right? There is a lot of data which is hidden here. That is how we work with double click. So double click helps you to readjust the column. We have also seen double click how it was helping me to autofill or autofill the values or series. It also helps me to work with height adjustments or width adjustments, and it also helps me to work with other values sometimes when I want to create a series or something. Okay, so moving back to the slide, freeze panes, right? So why do we want to freeze panes, and what is a pane? It's not the pane PAI, it's a PANE. So let me again go back to the large amount of data. So with this large amount of data, all this data is segregated or defined with respect to the columns that it has, right? So in which column what data is coming in, it's defining it like that. Now if I have to look into the data, if I start scrolling down, I may lose the track of all these values and tables and what does it show. So when I was in the starting of this sheet, I knew that okay, what column, which data corresponds to which column. Now when I scroll down, I don't know what's happening with it. So I need to know which the data, whatever the data is here, it corresponds to which value, as in which column. So I'll simply select the entire column, that is row number 1. I'll go to view, I'll click on freeze panes, and then I can simply say freeze pane. Or as a matter of fact, for the first row itself, there is a separate option given, freeze top row. Now if I freeze top row, if I start scrolling down, I may be moving across the table, I may be moving a lot across the table anywhere, but it will still retain the first column values, and that is where I will see if I'm looking at something that corresponds to this column. So freeze panes is something really important which helps you to deal with large amount of data when you are having so many values, and you may lose the track of the values corresponding to which column you are looking at, right? That is for freezing the top row. Now this is when I'm moving vertically in the table, right? I want to freeze the top row and I want to work with this. Now what about if I want to move across the board horizontally towards the right or left, but still want to make sure that to understand, so whatever these values are, what does these value talk about, right? So what I'll do, I'll select the first column like this. I'll go to freeze pane, freeze first column. So I want to understand whatever I am looking at. So whatever I am looking at, it should talk about the, see, if you look at, let me do this as an identifier. Let me simply just put some color here so that it helps us to identify. Okay. So if you look at this blue column, if I move across the table horizontally, this blue column is not going away. It's still staying frozen. I can move up and down, So I will know to corresponding to this value, these are the things available. Even though I'm moving at extremities of the table towards horizontally, if I move, I'll still understand which row value does the remaining values correspond to. This is something which is very helpful. Freezing and unfreezing, which is very helpful. Work with large amount of data. Now there can be a shortcut to freezing or unfreezing. I just have to select the row or column that I want to freeze, and I can simply say click Alt W and F. So this is when it will start freezing and unfreezing these bits, right? If I want to, let's say, want to freeze a row, right? So then I will select R for the top row. If I want to freeze column, then I'll select C. If I want to unfreeze, I'll select unfreeze. Now the options here on this, options bar, a lot of times, they tend to change. Let's see if I have to unfreeze panes right now. It is no more U. I have to see F. So I'll simply click on F and it will unfreeze everything. These things change, okay, according to the version of Outlook Excel that you use. If I have to freeze something, let's say freeze first column, I'll simply say C. And if I say C, it will freeze the column. See, it's not moving. At the same way, if I have to unfreeze, I'll have to click on F, it will unfreeze. And then it will move around. So if I have to freeze the first column, I can go ahead and freeze the first column by simply clicking on C, and that is when, sorry, I have to click on C here. So if I click on C, it will freeze the first column. But right now, since there is a freeze going on the row here, it is not taking it. Let me again do this. Okay, seems like this has not unfrozen yet. Okay, so there are basic shortcuts that we can use: Alt W and F, in order to freeze or unfreeze panes. But that may change if there are more options here. The alphabetical order may change. Like for freeze right now it is F. For unfreeze as well it is F. It's not U. And for top row or whatever rows you want to freeze, it will be R, and for column it will be C. So that's the reason why we freeze things. We want to see the corresponding column or row values with respect to the moving data on the table if there is large amount of data. Let me switch back to the slides, and then I'll move on to my favorite topic, one of the most favorite topic, filters. Has anyone used filters in Excel earlier? Like, have you used filters as in by clicking on buttons or with shortcuts? How have you used it? Anyone in the audience, raise your hand if you have used filters earlier. Okay, I don't know what you are understanding filters as, but okay, let me share this data. I hope the Excel is visible again. Okay.
Yes, Akshay.
Thank you, Akshita. So, filters, right? They are essential part when you are dealing with large amount of data or any data per se. Let's see small amount of data here. So what I'll do is I want to apply a filter here. How do people commonly do that? How I have seen is they will select the column manually. They will come here, sort and filter, and then they'll click on filter. And again, if they want to remove, they'll come and click on filter. Okay, that's one way of doing it. Now there is another way of doing it. The shortcut is Control Shift L, L as in London. So if I say Control Shift L, it will create a filter. If I again say Control Shift L, it will remove the filter. So why do we use filter? Let's say I want to understand or know all the female candidates in this list. I'll apply a filter, click on gender, then filter by female. I'll know all these females. And if I have to know who are the male candidates, I can do that. Okay, that's where you will have a freedom of selecting data on a specific based on a specific value. So if even if I have to create a filter here, which I did just now by hitting Control Shift plus L, I'll see all the values which are in that column here, basically the unique values. If you have repeated values, right? If you have repeated values, it will still show only one value here because it's obviously you are filtering it, so you don't have to have the multiple values written here. So let's say I'm going with this value. I want to see this is the largest value I'm seeing, which is kind of very different when I look at it. I clicked on it. Okay, so I'm seeing okay. So this is how I can find or search for a specific value. So if I look at it right now, I can see this is the 16,421st row where I'm seeing this parity, where I'm seeing this different value. So in order to reach this, if I had to reach this, right, I would have to travel all across this. So by the filter itself, if I know the value which I want to search with, I can simply select that value and click on OK. Now, what happens if I don't know the value exactly? I don't know. Let's say I want, this is a list of courses, right? So let's say if I want to filter all the courses, all the Java courses, I'll simply come here and write Java. Now this Java can be JavaScript, it can be Java alone. So I don't want any Java. I want specifically JavaScript. So let me write it JavaScript, and then it will load all the values where JavaScript is a common term. See, now how many values did it load? How will you know? If you just look at the bottom left corner, 840 values out of 16,000 odd values, 840 values are JavaScript values. If I want to know, let's say if I say flute, 60 values has a keyword, flute in it. So this is where I can filter out things on keywords. I can text filters. If I don't know the value exactly, maybe something which begins with a certain word or ends with certain word or contains certain word, I can do that. I can even have a uh, custom filter. Let's say something which contains, let's say, Python or or conditions, something like SQL, right? Let's say, and it also contains, let's say, contains game, right? I'll click on OK. See, Python bootcamp plus games beginner. So the word game is come here. So 60 values include Python and game both as keywords. So I can customize the way I filter things, right? So these are text filters that I'm working on. I can even work with number filters. So let's say if I am searching for some value where numbers are included, right? I can say, let's say if I say 1, wherever 1 as a digit is used, if I search it, these are the only values. These are the only values where that 1 is available. So number filters works like that. How will I clear filter? In order to clear filter, I can simply select these, go here and click on filter or clear, or I can again do that. Click on that shortcut, Control Shift L. It will clear all the filters from the table, the entirety of it. Okay. Now there can be filters based on date. Right? There can be filters based on date as well. Filters based on numbers we have seen, or filters based on date. So let's say if I say 1st Jan and 2025, and if I have created a series. Now I don't want to have a specific series only with this. So let's say if I do this at 2026 and if I click on this series, so it is doing the same. It's going in a specific order. because the date is changing in a series and the year is changing in a series. Now, what if I want to filter the date? So let me quickly have a filter on the date. Now it will give me options like years. The first thing that Excel does is it will give me years as options. So let's say, let me change some other values to randomize this. Okay, let's say right now I've tried to randomize it. It is giving me so many years, right? So what's happening around in, let's say, 2026? So either I can select an individual value within that year, or I have the freedom of selecting different values. Let's say there is a specific year here which is 36, where it has May month, 3rd of May. Let me make this as even as 36. So what the filter does is, if I come up here, I can directly go to 36, and if I expand it, it will give me both the months. So this expansion is something like a tree structure and list structure, or a tree structure, where it also talks about different dates within that month. So if I select 36 as a year, I'll have two values, but I only want to know what's happening in the month of May. See, the month of May. So if it has more values in the month of May, it will show it. I'll have a further degree or further level of filtering I can do on dates, not just the month, on dates as well. So I can filter within the same value. I can filter with years, I can filter with months, I can filter with days. Filter helps a lot to work around with data. If you don't want to look at the data all along, you want to look on specific things, maybe filtering by date, gender, and whatnot. Okay, so I'm moving back to the presentation. If we have any doubts or questions, I'll take it. Yeah, Akshita.
Yeah, does Excel allow filtering in a protected sheet?
Okay, so protected sheet filtering can only happen if you have the edit rights to that sheet. Okay, now protected sheets are something, either they are protected by password or they are privacy protected. Now, when I say privacy protected, the sheet is marked as a confidential sheet, or maybe it is confidential to specific company, confidential to specific project, or maybe confidential to a certain client. So in those cases, if you have edit access, you can filter. But if you have only view access, confidential sheets you cannot filter. Now, if you know the password, let's protected sheets are protected by password, not privacy. If the sheets are protected by password, if you have the password and you have entered the password and opened that sheet, then you can filter. But if you don't know the password, the values itself will not pop. Does that answer your question, Akshita?
Yes, Akshay.
Thank you. Any other doubts regarding filters before I move on? Yeah, Samit.
Anna, can we filter like suppose let us assume I don't want to filter them out based upon the row values or something. I just want to select out the odd rows or even rows. Can we filter that way?
Now that is something which is part of sorting,
Okay.
not filter as such. Okay, filter works on a, see, any filter. Let's say this is the data with filters, right? If I select this, if I select this,
Okay.
what is odd or even here, right? It only,
Okay.
the filter itself depends on the entire value of it. Okay,
Hmm.
now within text filters, let's say if it only contains text, because the most of the part is text here. So in the text filter, if I want to say that something that begins with a certain digit, let's
Hmm.
say I want to select a very to choose a certain part. So anything which begins with 22, I want to filter.
Yeah.
Then all the email addresses which are starting with 22 will be filtered. Now you can say
Hmm.
22 is an even number in that way, but the entire filter will depend upon your filter value itself, the values of the values within the cells. It will not. You cannot go beyond that. You cannot say even or odd specifically differently. But this is how you get. Let's say I want to see all 23. So it will give me 23.
Okay.
Does that help?
Yeah, it does. But actually, I wanted to know if, for example, I wanted to take out row number 3, 8, and 19. Is that possible? Like, for example, is there a seating arrangement? So we need to select the alternate row persons. So how do we take out that?
So alternate row persons, right? You have to have a specific value to them assigned.
Okay.
Like for any table in SQL as well, we need to have a primary key, right? So
Yeah,
based
yeah.
on primary key, you can define. Now I don't want to write any formula to filter out things, but I
Okay.
want to have alternate sitting arrangement, right?
Yeah.
So what I'll do is, let's say if I say seating, I'll say
Mhm.
seating as a column. Then I'll say one and sorry, 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Now this with this 1 and 2, I'll simply drag it till end, and I'll mention that I'm simply copying these cells.
Yeah.
This is where, since this seating column acts as a primary key for me,
Yeah.
I can define by this, right? I can
Yeah.
simply
Yeah. Yeah.
filter. So this is where I'm filtering
Alternate
odd,
values.
yeah, alternate values, and with 2 I can filter 2 values. It needs a primary key in that case, because see, the data is not consistent with its value.
Yeah. Yeah.
There should be a common factor to filter it. All the names are different. I cannot
Mm-hmm.
define that which name should be odd or which name is even. So this
Mm-hmm.
is something like pointers in your coding language.
Yes. Yes.
So the pointer has to be given a value. Whenever it says that the value of pointer is equal to that certain value, it will print. Wherever it's not equal, it will not. So filter works on that. So if I
Hmm.
say it's equal to 2, it will give you this alternate value. If I say it's equal to 1, it will give you that the other one.
Yes. Got it.
That's how it works. Hmm?
Thanks, Anna. It does help. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? See, we have reached our time already. It's 10, and I think I have another what um 4 slides, and these are like the heart, the bread and butter of Excel. Only 4 slides are remaining, so don't have to worry with respect to time. Yeah, Akshita, your question.
Yeah. What if we are in the like the sheet is view only and we want to find something in a large data? How can we?
Okay, so for view only, if you have given the access of view only, you can find the data, right? Sometimes you may not be able to copy. In the recent or latest versions of Excel, the Excel gives certain freedom or certain leverage on the data that is marked as view only data. Okay, you can earlier we were not able to copy certain data and push it in other Excels or place it somewhere else. You can maybe let's do one thing. Let's see this data I can copy and make it as a view only copy. Let's see if that happens. One second, I'm working on the other screen. Okay, so there is one Excel sheet. Okay, I'll open that Excel sheet. So you see read only on the top, right?
Yes.
Rakshit? Yeah. So read only means this is the view only table. Now I can put my filters here. Now according to the latest versions of Excel, it does allow filtering. So I can filter it with let's say male candidates I want to know. I can simply come up here and copy this, and then I can add it and place it somewhere else. All this I can do. But when it comes to save, you can't save the user data. This will be always a problem. You
Mm-hmm.
can work with the manipulation of data, but you will always have to save a separate copy of it. But if you are working on a, let's say this is the file which is not a read-only file, then you can save it on the spot without any hassle. So Akshita,
Okay.
filtering and sorting does work on read-only files, but the challenge will be you can't save that work.
Hmm.
You can
Okay.
copy it and paste it in a different Excel, but not in the same one as in you cannot save it previously. Answers your question?
Yes, Akshay.
Thank you, Akshay. Who else? More questions? I'm totally fine with questions. Okay, then I'm moving on to the next slide. So after filters, let's talk about sorting the data. Now this is a very interesting topic, and this is something I use every single day. Sorting out the data. I'm moving back to my Excel sheet. So we have a lot of data here. It seems like it has been sorted in a certain way, right? Let's say there are a lot of different ways of sorting data. Okay, let me simply go here and for sorting, let me apply a filter. See, I can sort it from here, like if I want to have things alphabetically, or if I want to have things in the reverse alphabetical order, that also works. See, all M's and F's are like this. F comes first in the series, but it's a reverse alphabetical order, hence M came first and F later. This is something I can do, or I can directly do the filter sorting here directly from the filter itself. I can even custom sort. Let's say I said this just randomly. I'm doing this. So let's say if I have added some colors to certain values and I want to look at those people, like for example, while working on this data, I marked certain people with a specific marker, like okay, these are the people I want to recheck later. So I can come up here, sort by color, and if I say red, it will sort all the red ones on the top. Now this is sorting, this is not filtering, so you will still have all the values exhibited in the list. So if I want to filter it, yeah, I can filter it by color, and then all the remaining values will go off. It will get hidden behind the filter. So this is where the sorting helps me to sort the data in a certain order. I can even sort it according to numbers can be sorted, right? Numbers can be sorted with sort smallest to largest. All the ones will come first and two later. If I want to sort largest to smallest, all the twos will come first and ones later. So that is where sorting works. So alphabetical sorting as well as numerical sorting, all this helps me to segregate the data with a specific marker. So here sitting is the marker. So with on the basis of this marker, I'm sorting up the data, right? Any questions on sorting? This is a very small topic, but a very crucial step when you're dealing with a lot of data. Any questions on this? Okay, so to be honest, this is it with respect to sorting. Yes, Dhananjay?
Yeah, we can sort the things based on colors or styles of the font. Is it possible?
Yeah, yeah, it is possible. Just now I did the same, right? I sorted by color.
Okay.
So it has whatever I sort by color, right? It will give me that first. Not just the color of the text. Let's say if I put something in this, okay, something is in blue color or something like that. I can even sort it by color as blue. So in this column A, everything that was marked with this blue color came up. Everything else went down. Okay, let's say if
Okay, bye.
some things are bold, you're saying on the basis of text you want to sort, but this text, right, when it comes to filters and when it comes to sorting, it will only read the value of it. It will not look at the formatting from a perspective of font. It will look at the overall formatting with respect to colors. Okay, if I have to sort it with a certain font, it will not work out here. So let's say if I have to, let's try with a custom sort. Expand the value. Okay. Now let's see. Sort by what? Cell values, cell color, font color, conditional formatting. So let's say if I say font color. Now what is the font color right now? I have two color options. Either it's red or automatic. If I say OK, all the red ones came up. Right? That's a custom sorting. Let me try it again. Let's see if we get that option, the one which you are saying. Again, custom sort. Now it said cell color, conditional formatting icon, no cell icon. Okay, there is nothing specifically there. Okay, I click on OK, nothing happens. So not based on font, but based on font color, the cell color, that happens. The sorting will happen, or based on the values, if the values are of a certain nature, right? Okay. So after sorting, we'll talk about VLOOKUP. Now I need everyone's undivided attention on the screen when we talk about VLOOKUP, okay? Because this is really, really important, and we may, have a specifically, we'll have a compulsory, we'll have a one chance, a mandatory chance in life to work on VLOOKUP, because VLOOKUP is something which helps to work with a lot of data, a large amount of data across screens, across sheets, where there is a primary key or a common point available. Let's say we have all these names here, okay, and let me yes, Dhananjay, I'll share my screen one sec. But yeah, it's the screen, right? I'll
Okay,
share.
bye.
Switched it. It's there is a bit of lag. Okay. When let me know whenever it's visible.
It is visible, bhaiya.
Okay. All right. So let me simply put all these values. Put all these values here. So now this becomes my primary key, right? So for me, for all these names, there are corresponding values available here. But for this sheet, I'm not seeing that. Okay. Let's say if I want to know the exam ID of these people who have given those exams, but I want to know their IDs. But those IDs are not available in this table. They are available in a different sheet, or maybe available in a entirely different document. So what I would do, I would click on this cell. I'll say equal to. Now this equal to is common for all the formulas that we use. Okay. I'll say equal to V lookup. Double click on this. Looking up which value? The primary key, right? So this becomes the primary key. Then say a comma. Table array, like looking this, you want to look up this value in which table array or on which table. So sheet 3, you will see sheet 3 came up here in the address. Now you want to look in this entire table that I have mentioned here, then say a comma. Now column index number, like you want to fetch the values, you want to look at this value, the name, and fetch a value from one of the columns. Now, which column do you want to fetch the value from? I just now said I want to know exam ID. So exam ID is available in this second column. Like A is the column where your primary key is, and B is the column where the value is. That is the second column. So I'll say 2. And I'll again enter comma. Right? Now, would you like to see if there is an approximate match of this primary key, or you want to make sure that the value should exactly match? Sometimes the name may be different. Right now it says Sahiti Vadlapur. Now it may say Sahiti Kumari, right? So if you just want to say that, okay, it is an approximate match, so that is when it will say, okay, Sahiti, the first name is matching, then it will fetch some values. So right now for this case I will say false, because I know that there is a exact match. I'll just close the bracket that is closing the formula and say enter. See, the exam ID has traveled from the different sheet. It has been taken up from the different sheet and it has dropped by here. So that means for this corresponding value, the exam ID in that other sheet is this. This is the magic of VLOOKUP. So I can bring in different values here from different sheets, from different places, corresponding to a primary key. So in this case, name was the primary key. Now let's say apart from exam ID, I want to know, let's say question ID. No, not question ID. Let's say option 2, option 3 ID. Okay. Let me copy that column name just for my reference. It's easy. I don't want to type it in. I will again say VLOOKUP. Okay, VLOOKUP. Now either I can write the formula again, or I can use the previous formula, right? Now I know which column it is in, right? It is in J column. Okay, so this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10th column. What would I do? I will copy this formula. Okay, I would paste the formula here, but instead of 2, I would say 10. See, it is fetching me the value from that specific column. So this is like 8B202. Let's see if that is the case. Yeah, 8B202. Now the same thing I want to happen for all these values. Simply come here, double click. Okay, it will fetch all these values. These are the exact values what are available here. If I copy this and if I paste it here, see, all these will match in the same sequence. So VLOOKUP helps you to look up the primary key vertically from top to bottom. That is why it's called VLOOKUP. There is another thing called as RLOOKUP, that is row lookup, or sometimes we call it HLOOKUP, but that is not widely used. We'll not get into that. So VLOOKUP works like this. Now the VLOOKUP formula is also available in other column itself, right? So let me do this. I'll select both of them and a double click. So whatever formulas were available here, right, they will correspond to every row. Now you can see, right, you can see that A2 is what corresponds to this value. So if I go down a row, it will say A3. Let me zoom in if that helps. I don't think that helped. In the formula column, right, in the formula 1, here you will see A3. Okay. Now if I move down, it will say A4, A5. So the way the series were made just now, a while ago we were learning series, right? Even the series will work out in the formulas in the same way. So A2 becomes A3, A4, and A5 correspondingly for the remaining rows. If I double click at the corner, if I select both the formulas and double click, it will create a series of that formula for both of these columns, and it will fetch me data. The same thing I can do, here itself. Let's say if I insert a row, right, I want to know phone number. Same thing I can do in the reverse order. I'll say VLOOKUP. I want to look up with this name, comma. I'll go back to this sheet. I'll select all these rows, right, A to E. Like I want to look up that value in this specific field, in specific area. Then I'll say, hey, I want to see the phone number, right? So phone number is available in A, B, C, D, E, so fifth column. I'll say 5. I want to look for the exact match. So I'll say false. I'll close the bracket. I'll say enter. See, I have the phone number. All the phone numbers are same. Now I double clicked it and it has taken me to the end of that table. So there is no value in the column A, right, for them. So that's why they are not applicable, showing as error. See, it has taken all the phone numbers from there. Now I have already given the corresponding values here. Now what if I've changed these values? What happens? Does this still work? No, right? I'll have to come back here, do this again. It's not working. That means the connection between these two sheets have to work out in that sense. So let's say if I say, let me delete this, again write it down. Say, now VLOOKUP does update the values from all the columns. Now you tell me why this did not work. Can someone raise their hands and tell me why this did not work? No one? Okay. I have changed the mobile numbers now. Does they change here? Yes. So I have entered the values, I have updated the values outside the exam ID. Now, why did these values get changed? Because they are corresponding to column number 2 from the first sheet. Now, if in the column number 2 I have entered phone number, it will start picking up the phone number. That means I have to change this to column number 3 because I moved that column along. See, now it will show me the right one. That's what happened here. So since I have moved these things around, the column 2 now had phone number. That's why it started picking the column number and putting it here, that column value. So VLOOKUP is so consistent that if you're changing the values on the go, let's say for Syed Imran, let me put 9999. If I simply go to the next sheet, I'll see the 999 and update it already. So the VLOOKUP is so consistent that whenever you update data in the corresponding data sources, it will give you those updated values. So for a lot of reports that we create, even at office, we may be taking so many values from so many different sheets and reports. So whatever central report I'll create, I'll have all the VLOOKUP values there. So whenever something changes in the source of that data, it automatically updates in my report, and that is where I'll see the updated data. So this is how VLOOKUP works. So once we are done with VLOOKUP, we will look at the next topic. The next topic and the last topic is pivot tables. Has anybody heard of pivot tables, or has anybody ever worked with this kind of table? Please let me know. No? Okay. So pivot table, a pivot is a mechanical device, that sometimes it is used as a leverage to, weigh or hang two items together. So pivot table here will give you an overall summarization or categorization of things that you have. So let me use this specific data. Okay, let me share my screen again with respect to the Excel sheet. Let me know once it is visible. I hope it is. Okay, so let's say if I consider this table, only this much amount of table, and if I want to create a pivot of it, I'll click on insert on the top, and then I'll click on the first option, pivot table. I would like to create this pivot table in a new worksheet. So I'll say, okay. Now, whenever this pivot table is created, it will give me all the fields that I selected, that I highlighted here. Only these. So name, gender, college, email, and mobile. That's the only thing I have. Now, on what categorization do I want to see my data? I want to see name as rows. See, I'm seeing all the names in the row, and I want to see gender as column. So how many females, how many males, right? And what should be the count? Like I want to see how many males and females are there against that. Or let's say, let me not do this like this way. Let me say, so how many males and females are there in that list? I don't want to count it manually. So I want to know. So what I'll do, I'll put gender under rows. So it is in the row values, 2 rows. And I want to have the count of names. So this is what it has counted. So there are 13 females and 16 males in that list. So this helps me to generalize or categorize my data. Now, let's say if I want to know, mobile numbers. Okay, let's put gender in a filter. Okay, now see, there are some common numbers like 1121. So 1121 is like 23 people has that, and remaining people have different numbers that we have updated. So I would understand, like, based on phone numbers, how many folks have that number right now with the data. Now gender is under the filter. Now I would like to filter with females. So all the females have the same number, which is same. 13 females have same number. If I go with male, then it will tell me, okay, so for the all the males that are available in that list, they have these many different numbers, and 10 of them has the same number. Right? That is where I will get an idea of, this helps me in data visualization. This helps me in creating reports. This helps me in understanding the demographics of the data, like how data can be differently organized. And eventually I can use these values, right? These values to even, work on creating charts. If I want to create charts, right? Let's say if I click on OK, I can create a chart based on, hey, so all the genders, like specifically who are male, they have these numbers, and 1121 is the one where people have more. So let's say if I add data labels, I'll see 10 people who are male has the same number. What if I filter with female? So there are 13 female who has 1121 and no other numbers. So see, I can create a data visualization based on the pivot table. Now if I select both, see, 23 people. So that means 13 female and 10 male have 1121, and rest of the males have this. So this pivot generally helps me to understand or segregate my data based on different filters or different categories. It sometimes may be tricky to understand it because operating this panel, right, pivot table fields can be tricky sometimes. But once you get a hang of it, it's very easy to represent your data. Any doubts on pivot tables? Basically, this is it with respect to pivot tables. We don't need to understand anything else as of now for pivot tables. So once we start using pivot tables, VLOOKUPs, right, with the different data that we have, specifically, let's say, whenever we are giving data for a specific purpose, let's say if someone asks you that, I want to know like how many people come by their own transport, or how many people come by the specific road transport or a bus or a train. So if all that data is available in a table already, right, I can just create a pivot table, and based on those criteria, that column, right, mode of transport column, I can bifurcate or I can represent my data. All right, moving back to this slide. If you don't have any doubts, I'm moving back to these slides now. Okay. So anything else? Like, so far we have covered so many topics, right? So any doubt so far with respect to Excel? I know we have extended our time, but I think there is a lot to learn and work with things here. So I have spoken about a very superficial layer of Excel. I mean, I might have not even covered 10% of it, but this is something which will always help you to work with things. Yes, Srinidhi.
Yeah, about VLOOKUP, you said that it's very consistent and it changes the value uh, automatically. So, will the formula be applied if you don't undo it or something, or we have to go ahead and undo it?
I didn't get you. Undo as in what
The
you're telling?
formula, like once you apply the formula, will be there applied to that column or row forever.
Yeah, it will stay there forever. See all your values, all your VLOOKUP is based on a source, and there is a destination where you want to print that data or get that data to. So if the source is changing, then this data will change, but the formula will remain same. As in, the formula defines that from which column, from which specific cell you are taking that data from the source and printing it here in the destination. So if the source is changing or anything else, even if the column values or column itself is changing, it will print whatever the value is there mapped in that source cell. So it's consistent with the formula, But if the data is changing, this output, the value here in the destination will also change. That's what the example we saw, right? I changed the mobile number and you saw that it got changed in the destination. So that happens. If the data is changing, then it will print the updated data. You got the answer?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, Surya.
In the pivot table, you have shown the analysis graph. So how can we export that into a PDF or image format?
You want to export it into a PDF format, is it? Okay. All right. Let me share the screen. Okay. You're able to see the screen, right, Surya?
Yes.
Okay. So you can, sometimes you may have plugins like Acrobat, create a PDF directly, or you can go to File and click on Share as a PDF link or export. Okay. And create Adobe. It will say convert to PDF. Let's see if it does. Give me a moment. It is creating. It's been long since I've used my Acrobat Reader, so let's see. Okay, right now it's asking me for login and stuff, but this is how you will get it get it changed into this. Or you can use create PDF XPS document. This is where it prints it to PDF. Okay. Let me save it here. Publish. I think it opens up. See, you have it. Now this is not showing completely because the area that I selected here is less. If I move this document here and then I go here and say export, publish, yes. Let me close this. Okay, publish, yes. See, you have it in your PDF format. Surya, answers your question?
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else, guys? I think I've completed all the slides, but if we have anything else, the floor is open for Q&A. Yes, Amit.
Anna, actually my question is on that generating series, the autofill thing. Just wanted to know that autofill does work for rule numbers and stuff, where we have characters both such as alphabets and numbers.
Okay, let me do that. Let's take, see,
Yeah, it does work.
it does because it's ending with a number. Either it's starting with a number or ending with a number. That is when it works.
Same with the email ID, right? If you add at the rate HTTPS after that.
Let's see. See, it's ending with an alphabet, right? So let's see. Let's see if it does. It does not. It does not. Why? Because it's ending with an alphabet. So it's understanding the end logic.
Yeah.
Right? So it will only work with
Roll
this. Now, there is something additional I can talk about. Okay, there are so many formulas that I use in order to stitch things together. Now there are so many roll numbers I'm seeing it here, right? I want to have these roll numbers added a common value. Just now you said at the rate St. Peter's HYD, right? I want to add that. So I could say equal to concatenate, concat. I'll have this text, comma, in double quotes, I'll say at the rate St. Peters HYD.com. Close the double quotes and close the formula.
Yeah.
So if I come here and double click, it will directly paste all the formula in a series. So this is a series of formula wherein we are concatenating a specific part of the text to a specific value from which is being taken from a specific cell. This is where concatenate works.
Yeah, cool. Thanks, Anna.
Thank you. Thank you. Anything else? Anybody? Yes, Anusha.
Like sometimes there are unnecessary spaces in data. So while cleaning the data or while identifying something in the data, it will be difficult for us, right? So how can we eliminate those spaces?
Okay, there are two ways. There is a very easy way and then there is a difficult way of it. Okay, let me, if you're seeing the screen, let me do that for you. Okay, let's say sometimes this is what you're saying, it right? There are some spaces in the data like this, right, Anusha?
Yes, Anna.
So there is one way of doing it. The one way of doing it is I can filter out. I can filter out any blank value. Now, since let me do this. So there is something called blanks here. So what I can do is I can just select those blanks. So I'll understand there was this one blank. Now, if I uncheck that blank, so in this specific column, it will remove all the blanks. I can then come up here in the next column, go down and uncheck the blanks. I can then come up to this column and then uncheck the blanks. Sorry, I've checked it by mistake. So you can uncheck the blanks. So it will give you a consistent data without any blanks, right? This is the direct way of doing it with filters. Okay, there is another way where it takes a lot of shortcuts and formulas where you identify different blanks and then you try to delete it. But that is where it will delete the corresponding value. So if there were blanks here, but there is a value here itself, right? There is a roll number here. It will delete that. So we don't want that. We don't want to lose data. So filters are the best ways of working around blank areas. You got your answer, Anusha?
Yes, Anna.
Thank you. Any more questions, Anusha, or should I move to Surya?
There are many formulas in Excel.
Correct.
So is there any way to remember those formulas? Any tricks?
The easiest, yeah, sorry, please go on. Okay, so the easiest way is practice. But apart from that, see, half of the formulas in Excel are based on Windows key, like Windows Windows A, Control C, Control V, Control D. They're based on the not Windows, but Control key. So if you start practicing those, Control and then the alphabet, you will first of all remember those. The next set of formulas are either logical formulas or arithmetical formulas, where mathematics is or those kind of formulas are there. So you know the BODMAS rule. So based on that, you can create. As simple as that, if I can say, right, if I have certain values, let's say there is a value in E column and there is a number in G column, I want to add them both. So what I can do, I can simply say equal to E8 plus, I click on G8, simply say enter, it will add 248 plus 2 is 250. So these are arithmetical formulas, so you will know this. I can do the same as minus. It will remove that 2 from 248. Now these are arithmetical formulas. Then there are logical formulas. Just now I did a formula called concatenate, right? So concatenation is something which is one of the logical formula. Concatenate itself by the word means adding or bringing two things together. So if you practice these basic formulas, it will be easier to remember. Now, as much as you use them, right, that is when you tend to remember. Apart from that, it's just the logic around them. I hope that answers your question, Anusha. There is no direct way of simply saying that I'll remember this. You have to practice. Okay. Then I'll move to Surya. Thank you. Yeah, Surya, please go on.
In roll numbers, we have alphabets and numbers. So in sequence, if we write like A means 100. So if we write something number with A9, then the next sequence will be A1 or it will go to B.
Okay, now that is something which is defined as a process maybe at your college, as in after A9 it should go to B1 because they want to restrict the numbers or restrict the digits in that string of your roll number, because your roll number has what, if you look at here, it's 10BK 1A0251. That means 1 2 3 4 5 10 digits. It should not go beyond 10 digits. That's why after A9 your next roll number comes as B1. Now that is a series which is limited to its string size, but for Excel sheet there is no limitation to the string size. Let me do that for you. Let's say the roll number, I say A1 here, right? So if I move it ahead, see, if I move it ahead, it will go A32, A12, A9. It will, there is no limit to that string, right? We are not limiting that string to a specific size. So after A9 it goes for A10. So according to your college, like, or if there is a limitation on the string, then you will have to define after A9 as B1. B1. So if you define it like this, then what we'll do, let's see, let's try this string. Let's see if it works for us. See, it will still doing A21, A22. It is not taking that logic. Let me define B2 here. It is still going on A11, A14, right? So it is still taking the logic of the larger series here. So since I'm not defining any string limit, it will always take the logic of series. Now what it is doing, what it actually trying to do is, it will go till A19 and then do B3 and B4. See, that's what happened. So it's taking this entire logic as a series logic and it is reprinting it in the next sequence. So Surya, to answer to your question is, if you limit the string size, not in Excel we can't do that, but if you limit the string size, then it will start going on with the next alphabet. Now that is a very custom series that the colleges and institutions follow for roll numbers. So they cannot be generated in Excel just like that. Surya, that answers your question? I didn't hear you, Surya.
Yes, Anna.
Okay, because you're limiting the string size, right? That is when it all happens. In Excel, there is no limitation as such. Okay. So, are there any more questions, or we can close the session? I think we have extended a lot of time, but there were really, really good questions and it was interactive. But still, any more questions? Let me take one more question if there is, or else we can close. Yes, Akshita.
How can we convert the data into table, like table 1, table 2, something like that?
Data is already in a tabular format in Excel.
Yeah, we particularly select few like the columns and rows and convert it into a table, right?
Table as in the boundary table, boundaries
Yes.
are there. Okay, it's fine. Let's say I say control A, control all. So wherever the values are, it selects it. I can simply go to home and click on the borders. Now I want to select specific columns and put it into a table. Now let's say something of that kind. I'll select this column. I'll hold the control button on the keyboard. And let's say I only want to know email and I only want to know exam ID, or not exam ID, let's say city. So I want to know the names, email address and city. I'll say control C, copy. I'll go to a new sheet and then I'll paste it. See, I have selected specific columns and created a new table. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Akshay.
Okay. Well, that was a really interactive session. And I'm really glad that you were a very patient audience. I know I have hardly spoken about 5 to 6% of what Excel is entirely, but this is going to help us a lot in future. So thank you so much for this opportunity, team, and please keep working on Excel. Excel is the backbone of IT industry, I must say, and that is how it's going to help us in future. So thank you, everyone.